Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 20. And the title this week is Plagiarism and Your PhD. Plagiarism has never been easier to enact in a PhD, and plagiarism has never been easier to detect in a PhD. We live in a time where we need to understand this culture of plagiarism, and that's the task and topic of the vlog this week. I'm also going to talk about the telltale signs that I locate as an examiner that suggests to me we may have a plagiarism problem in this thesis. So I'm going to give you some insights for you as a PhD student, but also what happens at the end of your candidature through the examination. Now, I've had more requests for this vlog than just about any other topic I've been asked to do. By count yesterday, I got another request yesterday, 17 of you out there have wanted me to do this session on the PhD and plagiarism. And needless to say, you wanted to remain anonymous, and that's absolutely fine, so I won't be doing my usual shout-outs. But I think we're learning something about the blame and the shame and the fear that exists around this topic of plagiarism, particularly at doctoral level. So remember, it's just us. We're having a chat, so I want you to take a breath for me, put oxygen into the brain, I want you to relax, and let's just gently talk through the issue and the topic of plagiarism and how it impacts on you. So most of us, when describing the impact of, say, the internet or computing or digitisation or the read-write web on our lives, we tend to use these verby nouns, so efficiency, productivity, connectivity. But what is rarely mentioned, and I think probably the cause of this efficiency, is an array of functions in our daily life have been automated. So what that means is more and more things we're doing in our day-to-day life we're not actually thinking about. We're not conscious of our behaviour. So in the old days, we would read a book and we would take notes in a notebook with a pen or a pencil. Remember those. So the great advantage of that old-fashioned system was that it was careful, it was methodical, and also it was slow. So now we read notes on our computer and we take notes on our computer. So through cutting and pasting. And this is terrific because cutting and pasting is quick, it's easy, it's efficient, it's effective. We think we're saving time when we're cutting corners, but we're also getting ourselves into trouble because there are consequences when we do things quickly and often without thought. But the oddity about all of this is when I commenced my first bachelor degree at the University of Western Australia, absolutely nobody mentioned the word plagiarism. I did my first honours degree and no one ever said the word plagiarism in those 4 years. There were certainly whispers of academics ripping off the work of their dissertation students, don't get me wrong, that stuff was happening. But compare that situation to our present. I do a lot of inductions, and I've done a lot of inductions for new students since 1997, and that is inductions for first year students just starting an undergraduate degree, and for you guys and gals entering your PhD program for the first time. And what I've found since 1997 is every single year the topic of plagiarism goes further and further up the agenda items to be discussed during this orientation or this induction. So picture this scenario. We've got a bright, fabulous group of students who are excited at their achievement. They're coming to a university. And what do we do to them, ladies and gentlemen, during their induction? Instead of congratulating them and saying, "Aren't you brilliant? Thank you for your sacrifice. You've worked so hard. I hope you have a brilliant time in this doctoral program or in this undergraduate degree," what do we actually do? From that first meeting, we start to shove sanctions down their throat about plagiarism so that they almost choke. We never ever think that maybe, just maybe, we're creating the problem that we think we are solving. Instead of exploring and talking about a culture of teaching and learning, we're imposing a culture of blaming. and shaming. And Turnitin in this context becomes the Panopticon of plagiarism. It certainly manages plagiarism, it catches the cheaters, there's no doubt about that, but are we missing something in this story? And indeed, are we missing the actual story? And that's why I said to you last week, and I really meant it, I want you to use Turnitin as a diagnostic, not as a punishment. I want you to use it early on in your candidature to explore if you have challenges with information literacy. But the question is, I think, and it's a big one, why in the last 20 years in higher education that plagiarism has gone from almost being invisible to the key scholarly crime of our time. Big existential question, that one. And I argue, and have argued in a lot of my research, that plagiarism is a proxy. It's a strategy to blame the victim rather than consider actually what's happened in higher education in the last 20 years. So how does all of this have an impact on you? Well, I'm now going to give you 5 quick strategies, topics or challenges that you confront in this area during your PhD. Part of it is about the candidature, but I'm also going to provide a couple of very important tips about what to watch out for in terms of examiners and plagiarism. The key variable I really want you all to consider, team, is speed. Most acts of plagiarism are not intentional. They emerge when a student takes a shortcut. So what happens is you let the technology determine what you're doing rather than allowing information literacy to determine what you're doing. So what I'm talking about now are the 5 quick topics or ideas that'll help you manage plagiarism in your candidature and examination. So 1 is the obvious one, cutting and pasting. Note-taking is a really specialist skill. Too often, I think, digitisation allows us to easily take that shortcut of cutting and pasting. And the problem is you are cutting and pasting the words of others into your notes. Now, that's okay if you're wide awake and you've got information literacy going on and you know what you're doing. But if you are tired, and of course for a PhD student you are tired most of the time, it can create that sloppy thinking. So you simply cut and paste, throw it into your notes, and you forget that it's been a direct cut and paste, not a paraphrase. So the shortcut, the cut and paste, creates sloppiness. It creates a lot of troubles, so please be really aware of it. And that's why I always recommend to you to take notes on a different platform from which you are reading. So if you are reading a book, then yes, you can take your notes on a computer. If you're reading an online source, read it on paper or read it on your iPad and take notes on your computer. This is called platform management, and I would argue it's incredibly important to note-taking, because what you're doing by creating different platforms is you're creating a space for thought, for consciousness, for interpretation. Okay, let's go to 2. Oh, this is the big one. Okay, here we go. If you get nothing else out of today, get this one. Watch your brackets. Harvard referencing poses particular challenges. It encourages paraphrasing, and the problem is the line between paraphrasing and your independent interpretation starts to become blurred. So as an examiner, I go straight on plagiarism alert when I see one thing. Let me tell you. When I see a paragraph of writing from a student without any references until the end of the paragraph. So this is what it looks like. Here is a paragraph in a PhD. There are 10 sentences in it, and at the end of that paragraph I see bracket, Brabazon, 2012, end of bracket. The moment I see that, I lift up the laptop lid and I start to put the sentences and the paragraphs from that student into Google to pick up the particular problems that may indeed be plagiarism. So at that point I start to do a plagiarism check. So what I'm worried about is the student has not specified This is a scholar's work. That is the paraphrasing, and this is my interpretation. So please remember, when you are constructing a paragraph, be very clear. Here's your topic sentence, then go into the paraphrasing from the scholar, the paraphrasing, then put your Harvard bracket, and then ensure you have your interpretation at the end of that paragraph. Separate out the reference from your interpretation. And please, at all costs, avoid putting a bracketed reference at the end of a paragraph. 3, managing feedback, editing and drafting. Again, crucial issue. I believe it's very important that you, yes, you, write and edit on both paper and screens. When you do editing on paper and on screens, you find different things. It keeps yourself fresh. A PhD is a very, very long gig, and what you need to do is continually defamiliarise your relationship with your own prose, because your eyes will start to glaze over the errors. You won't pick them up. So you defamiliarise your relationship with prose by sometimes editing on a screen, then maybe moving to a coffee shop and editing on paper. Keep changing it so that you're finding new errors each time. Now, yes, reading on paper takes longer, and that's actually the point. Your eyes glaze over errors when they're on a screen. And also think about it from an examiner's perspective. At its most basic, a screen is a different size from an A4 piece of paper. So what that means is if you spend all your time editing on a screen, you're not looking at how a page actually appears to an examiner. So that means it might be a bit bitty, it might be a bit choppy, and your paragraphing may be confronting some challenges. So make sure you do look at it on a page so you understand how an examiner sees your prose. Also, I do want you to recognise what reading on a screen and note-taking from a screen does to your interpretations. This is quite important. Through a series of wonderful JISC studies, Joint Information Systems Committee, my respect to all the great scholars in the UK as part of JISC, you changed my life, thank you for your scholarship. But what a lot of these JISC studies showed is that screens encourage superficial reading. Through some really fascinating eye-tracking software, they showed, guys, that when you read on a screen, your eyes go in a circle. So you just sort of glance over the screen like that. When you read on a piece of paper, your eyes go like that, because obviously you're trained at school to do that. So when you read on paper, you do that. When you read on a screen, your eyes flit around. So remember, that flitting around creates superficial reading, and superficiality is the enemy of a PhD. 4, orientations and inductions matter. Now, this is important. At the start of the PhD, and we've got new students about to start, hello, I'm so thrilled to have you with us. At the start of a PhD, it's very important that you enact a diagnostic, and can I say, it's never too late to do that diagnostic. If you're in the final 6 months of your candidature, do a diagnostic. So what I'm asking is that you and your supervisors have a quiet, compassionate and really civilised conversation about the skills that you have and the skills that you do not have, what you do well, and perhaps what is an area of challenge for you. So this, for example, maybe I'd really like to use EndNote. I've no idea how to do it. So use our library, use our librarians. Flinders has an amazing library, so please use their expertise. You may say, I'm really lacking writing skills. Well, use the Office of Graduate Research. We have write skills, we have the Write Bunch, we have a whole series of strategies to help you write, learn to write, get writing and complete your writing for your PhD. So you've got challenges with referencing. Again, the library has incredible sessions that very quickly can solve that problem. Similarly, with methods and theories, go to a lot of seminars, as many seminars as you can go to, and not only in your own school or your own faculty. Stretch yourself. When people talk about mixed methods, wow, they're talking about a very narrow parameter of methods. Broaden yourself out, understand the world, go out, gain new knowledge. You see, it's only when we work out what we do not know, so we know what we don't know, that we can fix it. So right now, what I'd ask you to do, particularly after this vlog today, list down the skills that you're really comfortable with, and then also perhaps list the skills that you find a little bit more challenging, and we can enact diagnostics around you. 5, we got there. Keep the level of reading high. There's never been a time on planet Earth where there's been so much low quality material available for a PhD student. So now the problem we really have to manage in doctoral education is what happens in that space between a lot of really low quality material and the demands of the highest levels of scholarship. So when I examine these days, can I say particularly when I examine media studies theses from England, and I used to teach, I was a professor of media studies in England, so I get this, but when I'm particularly investigating and examining media studies theses, I see a huge number of low quality references in the bibliography. We're talking textbooks, we're talking blogs, we're also talking very low quality refereed work. Now, I'm not saying don't use this material. There are some topics that you need that emerging set of ideas to put into your thesis. I really get that. But don't be over-wedded to this material. Make sure you always have a balance. You need to also every single day, read material that will stretch you. Every single day I wake up, I wake up at 2 in the morning and I force myself to read really edgy, high quality, high level material. So every single day I keep learning something, and I want exactly the same for you. I want you to stretch yourself. It's very easy to read blogs, it's very easy to read textbooks. You become very satiated at the low level of scholarship, but they cannot be the foundation of a PhD. And remember, Turnitin discovers errors that have been lodged in their database, and trust me, Turnitin has just about every single textbook and blog that can be found. So if you're using the low quality work, the chances are the matches and the capacity to find those matches will increase. So besides ensuring that the material that you are reading is complex, it's also important, team, that we keep the standards of our PhDs incredibly high. Many of you have heard me use the phrase through all the lectures and stuff I've done around the world. I use the phrase, the dumbing down of a doctorate. That's my greatest fear in higher education, the dumbing down of a doctorate. And that is why, that's the single reason I took this job. Because if we lose the calibre, we lose the quality, we lose the integrity of a PhD, we might as well close down universities. The whole point of this is it's high quality and it matters. So I need to make sure every single day that every single one of you has the highest standards of information literacy. I want you to read the best scholarship in the world because I want you to write the best scholarship in the world. PhDs are meant to be tough. They are still an elite qualification, and that's why they still mean something. Therefore, what I'm asking is just make sure that you always read the best. You read the verified, you read the refereed scholarship. And I also want you to write with clarity, with precision, but also with care. So I wish you a tough reading week, and I also wish you a brilliant writing week. As always, I wish you love, light and peace. Have a great one. Take care. Tea out.